When I was young, I definitely knew that I was different. It felt easier to be white in some ways and not necessarily announce that I'm Asian. I think I buried some of the hard memories of being called terrible names. I really do understand what it's like to have bias and prejudice. On the other side, I really understand the conversations about being white and Caucasian. It's not about being half Chinese and half German. I feel 100% Chinese and 100% German. That's who I am. I feel really blessed to have the different perspectives and embraced all the wonderful things. And the fact that I did have sort of this really dual upbringing.
Jennifer joins us now from her home in New York. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
You know, we saw pictures of your beautiful parents, and you referred to your dad. And growing up, your dad wasn't trying to deny your Asian heritage, but as I understand, it was the perspective of his experience with your mom was that these labels were weighing her down. These labels with identity were impacting day-to-day life. So growing up, how did they explain it to you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's interesting. We're doing a little video of my dad, and we asked him the question, was it hard for you to marry my mom? You know, my kids asked, was it hard for you to marry Japa, which is Chinese for grandmother? And he said, not for us, but it was hard for the world. And he really felt like there were a lot of times where people were asking, they went to the marriage clerk and they filled out the form, and he filled out white for himself. And they actually said, you'll have to fill out yellow for your wife. And he said, what? Not filling out yellow. Does she look yellow to you? Got into a little tiff, and ultimately that's what he had to put down. And I think a lot about the documentary that I just watched, The Lovings, and where it was illegal for people to get married, right? Interracial marriages were illegal in some states in this country. So just by having to identify yourself as something and sort of being other, as one of your other guests said, made it feel wrong. And then, the other story I think I shared with your producers was when I was applying for colleges, I remember distinctly, as your other guests pointed out, that I only had one choice to put down for race. So I was hovering over this paper form, and my father said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm trying to decide Caucasian or Asian, because again, I'm 50-50. So he said, well, you put white because you don't want to be tagged as a minority. So that already sort of felt like all these little things happening to me over my life felt like there is baggage with being a minority. Yeah. And that, really, really carried with me throughout when I was young and until my adult life.
You said, though, you had a conversation with a young coworker that really changed things for you, and it inspired you to start really embracing your mixed race publicly. What was that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. When I was sharing that story, it didn't even dawn on me that there was that sort of that quintessential moment. But her name's Clara, and I still work with her. And she's Asian, and we were talking about celebrating Chinese New Year in the office. And she felt so, enlightened and so grateful that there was someone in the office that was more senior than her in this case, that would want to talk about being Chinese, that would want to talk about being Asian, that would want to embrace their culture in the workplace. And it was right around the time of Crazy Rich Asians, the movie coming out, where it was an first time all Asian blockbuster movie. And we then did a panel about it, and we really sort of leaned in on, embracing our Asian side.
Wow.
And to your guest's earlier point, because I'm mixed, it was a little bit, am I Asian enough? Right. Do I present Asian? And can I own that part of me? And should I own that part of me publicly? I'm so proud of being German. I grew up going to Germany often and being in German schools. I did that for my children, but super proud of my Asian side as well, and really try to embrace, that part of the culture about my upbringing as well.
I think that's a beautiful story, and that's why it's important to have those conversations in safe spaces, because look how it allowed you and helped you evolve to where you are now. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me.